If you have an interest in small business acquisitions, you're probably wondering what is going to happen in 2026. And we've got some predictions for you. I'm not saying we're right. I'm not saying we're wrong either. We'll see how it actually plays out. But Ryan and I sat down and put our heads together. And these are things that we kind of started seeing start to snowball and happen towards the end of 2025. Things that were kind of set up for at the end of 2025, and just things that we think will kind of exacerbate or increase the rest of this year. So we got 5 trends that we're going to go over that we think, just kind of predictions and trends that we think are going to happen in 2026. Uh, First one that we have that we think is going to happen, and this was, I got to give Ryan credit for this one. He thinks this is going to be the death of the gurus and the influencers around business acquisitions. Ryan, talk about that a little bit.
Well, everybody knows that I'm the number one guru hater, course seller, debunker, with a few exceptions, of course. But I do believe that we saw this kind of ramp up over the last, like, I'd say COVID, post-COVID era, like that 2020, 21, where the whole buying a business thing kind of took off for a lot of mainstream people, really hit its peak in 23, 24. And I think we're starting to see a lot of those people fizzle out. We're seeing a lot fewer ads, a lot fewer targetings. And I fully believe that this is going to be a lot of people talking about how they sold their business, how they exited, or just stop talking about it completely because it isn't really, it isn't getting the clicks it once was. I think the boring business thing has run its course, and the people who are in it for the quick buck are going to phase out and go on to the next thing, whatever that is. But the people who actually want to stay into it are going to be able to have a really good open market. We've seen it kind of in a few different ways, but I think that the fair weather buyers are going to leave, and all of the serious people are going to have a lot more at their disposal for actual acquisitions.
I think that's exactly right. And part of that, like, kind of people flooding out of the market, I think, is we saw over the last couple of years, while a lot of this stuff has been getting really popular, a lot of failures happen. A lot of people acquire businesses and kind of rush to acquire businesses and end up over leveraged. We saw the SBA really draw things back last year and tighten their lending guidelines because there was a lot of defaults going on because they didn't really correct things in time for this huge wave of excitement around business acquisitions. And a lot of people went and bought stuff all high and mighty and excited about, the dream that they were being sold of easy cash flow and guaranteed cash flow. And it wasn't as guaranteed as they thought. They didn't have the kind of experience that they needed to make sure that the business kept running properly. And so I think that because of this, because of the fact that lending guidelines have really tightened for the SBA, it means money's harder to get. There's not going to be as much money flooding into the acquisitions market. And ultimately, I think that means that the valuation multiples are going to probably start to come down. So people who are selling their business in 2026, I don't think you're going to get the kind of multiple that you got the last few years. I don't think that you're going to be able to get it quite as high of a price as you thought you could. The great rebalancing, I think, is what Ryan called it.
I mean, we kind of came to that. We've been doing a lot of deal stuff on our channel for a while now. You can go back and watch it and kind of where we value this stuff at and kind of what we think. And I think based on what we're seeing with a lot of people and how last year ended with a lot of deals being pulled off the market, just flat out not being sold, just leaving. A lot of people were not getting the numbers they thought they were going to get coming to 2026 based on a whole host of factors. That what should be a 2x multiple being sold as a 3x, that's not really gonna fly because the fast money that we got from the influencer push is going to be dried up because they're all going to leave. So you're going to have to go and play in the sand with everybody else. It's going to be a very interesting next couple months to see how this rebalance happens, when kind of like in real estate, when they relist the house that's been on the market for 286 days, how does that affect the price and how does that affect the seller expectations?
I think another part of this great rebalancing that's coming is more creative deals. I think when money is harder to come by and harder to get, the SBA is pulling back a little bit. There's not as many buyers flooding in. Things get more competitive. And I think that that's going to mean that people that are trying to buy businesses have to get a little bit more creative. If they can't get an SBA loan, they might be able to put some cash down, but they might have to ask the seller more often to foot some of the bill and do seller financing. And like there's deals that I look at and work on that I've worked on recently where sometimes the seller even wants this because it's advantageous tax wise for them, and it just makes a lot of sense. But I think that we're going to really see a lot more of these deals just get creative.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that towards the end of Q4 in 2025. We were looking at a couple deals in some areas, and especially with some brokers that were, general out in the area, out in the world stuff, not private deals. And they were already making concessions and willing to come down, and the sellers were very eager to make something happen. So I do believe that with, whether you believe it or not, the recession-esque state of the economy in the United States and the sort of SBA tightening down, as you stated, we are going to see that seller needing to come to the table and actually have to meet. Because I think if you were talking about this 2-3 years ago, sellers were king, seller never made concessions, and the concept of seller financing was almost laughable for many people. But now that we've come back down to reality and it's sinking in, yes, sellers holding a note, that's not egregious. Now, they're not going to hold 80%, but a seller holding a percentage is going to become a more normalized thing, especially with the SBA being less and less of an option.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think another thing that we're going to see in 2026 is, things have been getting crazy. There's a lot of uncertainty in the political landscape. I saw someone even in the comments was asking, what do you guys think of Trump wanting to invade Greenland? They said that will lead to war between the EU and NATO versus USA. World War III is so close now. To me, this is just indicative of like how people are kind of feeling right now. It's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of difficulty. And I think one thing that means just on a broad economic scale is people are a little bit more worried to spend money sometimes in situations like this. And when there's less money pumping into the economy and making it spin around and go and do its thing, then businesses start to suffer. Businesses that are just kind of like your everyday Main Street mom and pop businesses that people don't necessarily need. They're going to struggle a lot. And I think we're going to see a little bit of fall off in some of these Main Street businesses.
Oh, that's fine by me. I don't really know how that's gonna. I don't really know the effect of that on small businesses, but I imagine it would have some effect. Not going to speculate on that though. If that happens, there's a lot of other things that would be going on that would not be involved in SBA lending or business purchasing. So,
but I think one thing to look out for is, depending on what type of acquisition you're looking to do, there might be opportunities that come about of businesses that are struggling that just need the right type of person to come in and help turn things around. So that's something to watch out for. If some of these businesses are struggling and you're someone who knows what they need, maybe you can implement things from an industry that you've worked in before at a bigger level. Maybe you've worked for a bigger company and seen kind of how they make it work, and you can go get a business in that industry. That's the kind of opportunities that I would look for. Another thing I think that we're going to see a lot of, because of some of these businesses struggling and falling off and maybe not making it and maybe failing this year, is I think we're going to see some kind of older generations that are business owners. I think we're going to see, as their business starts to struggle and meet these headwinds that they didn't have before, I think we're going to see some panic selling. I think some people are going to panic and just decide to put their business up for sale.
I mean, the death of the Main Street business is something that we hear a lot, and meaning that the brick and mortar stores that refuse to adapt are going to feel the most impact when things economically turn like they have. So I think that you might get some people who are kind of coming off that tailwind of all the people that they know kind of getting these big payouts and not seeing it when they list. So they might just say, forget it, I'm done, this is too much, and they might just put it out to market, whatever they want. And if their books aren't great or they haven't done really any cleaning of their business, you're going to find that those offers are going to come in low and they're going to be pretty difficult. And if you sell, panic sell to somebody for way too low, you're going to well, you're going to be left walking away feeling pretty bad. So I think we're going to see some of that. And also, if you're buying one of those, you better have the cash on hand to fix it up, because otherwise you're in the same position as that. And I think that goes with panic buyers, people who are in economic instability. Maybe they had a good job and they lost it and they're trying to figure out what's next. The job market is absolutely cooked right now. Maybe they think buying a business, they buy the job and be the business. You can't get fired from your own business. Well, you can still go under. So I think the panic seller and the panic buyer are going to be two people that we do see coming out of this thing, and hopefully not too many, but I do think it will be a kind of consequence of the current state of the economy where it is right now, especially with the unemployment numbers coming out.
I think that's probably right too. It's just I think that's not the worst thing in the world, though. I think the economy is going to move a little bit more towards just small businesses being democratized. Now that people understand how small business acquisitions work, I think we're going to see more, like you said, more of those people that have worked in an industry before and feel confident in that industry. Maybe they struggle to find the right job for themselves somewhere, and maybe they just go decide that being a business owner is the right thing for them, and they want to try to take one over from someone who's retiring. And maybe it's a more creative deal than it would have been in previous years. Maybe the valuation is lower, but it's a way for this person to sell their business, and it's a way for this person who is looking for the right opportunity and can't find it in the job market to make a way for themselves. So I think we're going to just see things kind of correct across the board that way. But I'm hopeful for it. I'm excited for the rest of 2026.
It's going to be an interesting year, I think, for small business and medium business. I think we're going to see just as many corrections as we will see fall offs, especially when it comes to the PE space. We got a lot of major players starting to get out of their holdings that they had a couple of years back that they're turning around. So a lot of those guys are starting to get back into the stock market. You're seeing people like Citadel, Blackstone, BlackRock all start to kind of buy up more real estate. So they're going back into that. So I think you can kind of also trend where the big firms are putting their money. And if they're getting out of something, it could be a signal to not go into it, or depending on the person, it could be a signal that you're going to get a pretty good deal on something that possibly is already running fairly well based on their own standards. So I think 2026 is going to be a very interesting year, especially for small, medium businesses. And I think we're going to look back on this one and hopefully we'll have been, more right than wrong, but only on the good stuff.
Well, I did see something, speaking of the real estate thing. I don't know if anything has happened with this since he said something about it, or if he got support for it, or if it's continuing. I did see something about Trump proposing like something that was going to prevent institutional investors from buying up real estate. So that would be a huge shakeup in the market. And perhaps with, some of this competition that's coming out of business acquisitions, maybe people not getting as hot on that idea, we might see more just everyday retail investors starting to move back towards real estate instead of business acquisitions.
It's entirely possible, and it will just thin out the herd for everybody else who really wants to stay on the business side, but we'll see. I mean, we got a lot of time left. We'll see if that passes, and if it does, well, we're going to probably have to do some interviews with people on the real estate side that work in real estate businesses and kind of how they're adapting to that.
That's right. But stay tuned to this channel if you want to hear more trends like this. We do this every week right around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be trying to come at you with all kinds of different things like this and bring the freshest news and just keep you guys updated. So let us know in the comments, if you watch this, what you would want us to talk about next time. If there's any topics you would want covered, let us know if there's any particular business acquisition related things that you would want to hear more about. And until next time, we'll see you.